It was supposed to be routine. Adrian Pierce stepped out of his black sedan and adjusted the strap of his leather messenger bag. The sun was barely cresting over the Denver skyline, and Summit Corporate Plaza gleamed like glass armor. Adrian glanced at his watch, 9:52 a.m. He was early. Clad in a pressed silver-grey shirt and tailored dark slacks, Adrian looked every bit the federal agent he was. Calm, composed, efficient. He nodded to the security officer at the desk, Carl, who barely lifted his head in return. Adrian didn't take it personally. He was used to being overlooked. He stood near the onyx-tiled lobby wall, speaking into his discreet earpiece. Agent Pierce, Denver briefing check-in, standing by. To most, he would seem like a professional on a call, preparing for a meeting. But to Chloe Davies, the junior admin at reception, he looked off. She watched him from behind her desk, eyes narrowing. "He's pacing," she whispered to a coworker. And talking to himself, instead of approaching, she picked up the phone. "There's a man in the lobby. Looks suspicious. No mention of his badge, no mention of his professional posture. Just that he looked out of place. 8 floors above, Adrian's contact at Apex Solutions was running late. Downstairs, that vague report had already made its way to the Denver Police Department. 2 patrol officers, Kevin Stone and Maya Santos, were dispatched within minutes. Inside the building, Adrian still waited, unaware of what was about to unfold. He checked the time again, 9:58 a.m. by 10:07 a.m. Adrian Pierce's life and the careers of 2 officers would be changed forever. And it all began with a glance and a phone call. The doors swung open with force. Officers Kevin Stone and Maya Santos entered briskly, hands resting on their belts. The dispatch was vague, but just enough to raise alarm. Black male, early 40s. Possibly scouting the building. Adrian, still near the onyx wall, looked up as Stone walked directly toward him. "Sir, could we have a word?" Adrian blinked, a bit puzzled. "Of course. Is there a problem?" "Step away from the wall. Keep your hands visible," Stone ordered, his tone flat but charged. Adrian remained calm. "I'm with the agency. I have an appointment upstairs. Scheduled briefing." "Agency of what?" Stone asked, squinting. "CIA? Homeland?" Adrian nodded toward his bag. "Department of Justice, I've got ID in my bag." Stone's hand twitched toward his holster. "Don't reach!" Adrian froze mid-motion. "You just asked me for ID," he said, evenly. Santos stepped in, trying to de-escalate. "Sir, just place the bag down slowly. Open the side pocket." Adrian complied. "Go ahead." "It's in the front sleeve." Inside was a slim leather wallet. Santos opened it, revealing a federal badge, photo ID, and clearance card. Santos hesitated, then nodded. "Looks real." Stone didn't budge. "Still need to confirm. Stay seated." Adrian sat down, back straight, hands in plain sight. His breathing stayed calm, but tension curled in the air like smoke. "Call Agent Rachel Chun at the Dallas office. She'll confirm everything," Adrian said. Neither officer moved. Neither reached for the phone. Minutes passed, and Adrian remained there, an 8-year veteran agent, treated like a suspect, not a guest, all because someone thought he didn't belong. The silence was heavy. Adrian stayed still, knowing any move could be misread. Santos shifted uneasily. "We should radio this in," she murmured. Stone didn't respond. Then the elevator chimed. Out stepped a woman in a sharp navy blue pantsuit, heels clicking with authority. She carried a coffee cup in one hand, badge lanyard swinging from her neck. Her eyes scanned the room and locked on Adrian sitting on the floor. "Agent Pierce?" she said sharply, stunned. "What the hell is going on?" Adrian gave a dry nod. "Morning, Rachel." Agent Rachel Chun's gaze snapped to the officers. "Why is my top agent on the ground?" Stone tried to explain. "Ma'am, we received a call. He was acting suspicious." "Did he resist?" she demanded. "No," Santos admitted quickly. "Did he threaten anyone?" "No." "Then why is he on the damn floor?" Rachel's voice sliced the air like a blade. Stone flinched. "We didn't recognize. Because he's black. Because he had an earpiece in. Because he was standing still in a lobby," Rachel snapped. Adrian stood slowly. 9 minutes, he said flatly. "That's how long I sat here, waiting to be seen as something other than a threat." Rachel's jaw tightened. "You're cleared, Agent Pierce." She turned to the officers, her tone sharper now. "If you still need confirmation, my number's on that card. But he's an 8-year DOJ veteran. You just made a massive mistake." The power dynamic had shifted, but the weight of what had happened was just beginning to show. Chloe sat behind the front desk, staring at her monitor but seeing nothing. Her throat was dry, her palms clammy. She had watched the entire scene unfold, and now realized what she'd started. She hadn't expected this. She hadn't imagined federal agents, tense officers, or her quiet phone call exploding into a racial flashpoint. Adrian was back on his feet now, adjusting his sleeves, saying nothing. He didn't glare, he didn't scold, but his silence echoed louder than any outburst ever could. Rachel walked over to the security desk. "We'll need surveillance footage for the last 30 minutes. Carl, the security officer, nodded quickly, avoiding everyone's gaze. Then Darryl arrived, the head of security for the building. "Agent Chun," he said quietly, "you need to see something." She raised an eyebrow. "What now?" There was another man here. 5 minutes before Agent Pierce arrived. He left a small black case near the north wall, under a planter. Adrian's head turned sharply. "Where is it now?" "We haven't moved it. Standard protocol. Waiting for bomb squad clearance." Rachel's spine stiffened. "You're telling me while Pierce was being profiled on the floor, a potential threat was ignored?" Darryl nodded grimly. "We just pulled the footage." The man placed the case, looked over his shoulder, then walked out. Intentionally, Chloe's face turned pale. "Wait, are you saying there's—" "No more questions," Rachel said. "Secure the area." Just like that, the story shifted. The real danger had come and gone while all eyes were on the wrong man. Rachel spun into action. "Evacuate non-essential personnel," she ordered. "Lock down the elevators, clear the lobby. Now." Carl and Darryl moved quickly, coordinating over radios. Within seconds, the once calm lobby turned into a hive of activity. Staff members were escorted out, doors were sealed, protocols activated. Adrian stepped beside Rachel. "Patch me into ops. Possible drop confirmed. Scrub surveillance, 5-minute lead, audio included." Rachel handed him her tablet. "Already loading. Want a second unit?" "No, I'll handle the recon myself." Santos watched, stunned. This wasn't just a victim. He was commanding, focused, professional, a leader. Stone stayed near the door, noticeably silent. The bag, still untouched, sat beneath the planter like an unanswered question. Adrian stepped toward it, but stopped at the line. He knew better. "Where's the footage now?" he asked Darryl. "Uploading to encrypted drive," he replied. "But it's slow. Move faster," Rachel snapped. Chloe was frozen, hands clasped. "Is it serious?" Rachel glanced at her. "There's a black case placed by someone acting suspiciously. We don't assume, we confirm, but we're not ignoring it." Adrian turned to Santos. "You still think I was the threat?" Santos didn't answer. He didn't wait for one. This wasn't about feelings anymore. It was about facts, footage, and the minute-by-minute breakdown of where attention had been and where it should have been. Rachel stood with arms crossed, watching the footage as it played on the tablet. There he was, the unknown man, placing the case, scanning the lobby, then slipping out unnoticed. No hesitation, no rush. Adrian narrowed his eyes. He knew where the cameras were. Darryl nodded. Calculated placement. Behind them, Officer Stone's jaw clenched. "I didn't know," Rachel turned slowly. "Didn't know what?" "That Pierce was who he is. I thought you thought wrong." Adrian didn't say a word. He let the silence weigh Stone down. Chloe shifted behind the desk. Her voice cracked. "I didn't want to take any risks." Adrian looked at her, not angry, just tired. "And yet, you took one anyway, on me." She had no defense, none that mattered. Rachel stepped forward. "Here's the irony. Agent Pierce was reviewing applications this morning for a transfer opening on the Cybercrimes Task Force." Her gaze fixed on Stone. "Your name was on that list." Stone blinked. "Mine? Your whole file was there. Field performance, awards, academy scores. You were 15 minutes from a career-changing opportunity." Adrian folded his arms. "I had marked it for an interview. Thought you had good instincts." Stone flushed. He looked less like a cop now, and more like a man standing in his own judgment. 9 minutes had changed everything. Chloe sat still, barely breathing, as if any movement might make her disappear. Her hands trembled beneath the desk. She hadn't expected all this, certainly not a bomb threat, and especially not a federal agent she had misjudged so badly. Adrian paced slowly near the planter, waiting on the bomb squad, earpiece still active, relaying updates to his team. Calm, calculated, every move professional. Rachel's voice sliced through the thick air. "You ignored the badge, the ID, the calm demeanor, but not the skin. Stone didn't argue. Santos quietly stepped beside Adrian. I saw your badge. I knew it was real. Adrian didn't look at her. And I froze. I should have spoken up. You weren't the only one, he said. He wasn't mad. He was disappointed. And somehow that hit harder. The elevator behind them chimed again. This time it was Adrian's apex contact. The man looked bewildered. Agent Pierce? I thought we were meeting upstairs. Adrian gave a faint nod. We still are. The mission wasn't over. The job still had to be done. But the message had already been delivered, loud and clear. As Adrian walked with his apex contact toward the elevators, Rachel stayed behind. Her gaze swept across the lobby, now half emptied and sealed off. The once subtle tension had morphed into quiet reckoning. Officer Santos approached her. Agent Chun. What happens now? Rachel didn't sugarcoat it. Internal Affairs gets a report. So does the DOJ. What happens next depends on how you write your own part in this. Santos nodded, her face a mixture of guilt and clarity. Stone, still standing like a statue, finally stepped forward. I didn't mean for it to go that far. Rachel turned slowly. It always goes that far when you don't stop it. 9 minutes may not seem long, but they were enough to do damage you can't undo. Chloe spoke softly from behind her desk. I panicked. I didn't even speak to him. You didn't have to, Rachel said. You judged. And you had the power of the phone. That's all it took. No one responded. The weight of that truth was enough. Upstairs, Adrian sat down for his briefing like nothing had happened. Files opened, updates shared, plans discussed. Because that's what professionals do. Even when they've just been humiliated. Even when the wound is still raw. After the Apex Solutions briefing, Adrian remained behind to collect his laptop. The room was quiet. Rachel leaned against the window, watching the sun drop lower behind Denver's skyline. You good? She finally asked. He didn't answer right away. I'm practiced at being good, she nodded. Too practiced. I've worn the badge for 8 years, Adrian said, but it never walks into a room before my skin does. Rachel's jaw tightened. We can push a report. There's weight behind your name. Adrian closed his laptop and stood. It's not about revenge. It's about recognition. You can't fix what you won't face. They stood quietly, the unspoken pain hanging in the air like fog. Finally, Rachel asked, Want company on the way down? He shook his head. No. I need to walk through that lobby myself. She nodded once. Call me later. As Adrian stepped into the elevator alone, his reflection stared back at him. The same suit, the same agent. But something had changed. When the doors opened again, he didn't expect anyone to still be there. But someone was. Officer Maya Santos stood near a pillar, no radio, no authority, just presence. She wasn't posturing, she wasn't waiting on orders. Adrian slowed his walk. You waited? She nodded. No one told me to. I needed to. He paused. Let her speak. I saw your ID. I knew it was real, but I let Stone take the lead. I didn't stop anything. I should have. Adrian studied her expression. She wasn't performing. There were no excuses coming. Just truth. I froze, she said. I won't pretend it was okay. And I won't forget it. He nodded faintly. We don't get to choose the moment that defines us, just how we respond to it. She bit her lip. What do I do with that now? Decide who you want to be, he said. Then show up that way, next time. She gave a soft nod. Thank you, Agent Pierce. He didn't say you're welcome, he just kept walking. Because some apologies don't need conversation, just accountability. Carl, the lobby guard who hadn't looked up earlier, watched Adrian pass again. This time, he stood and cleared his throat. Sir, I didn't know. Adrian stopped. You didn't want to. Carl looked away, embarrassed. I should have greeted you like anyone else. That's all it would have taken, Adrian replied. Carl opened his mouth, then closed it again. Adrian didn't linger. He wasn't collecting apologies. He was exposing patterns. As he stepped outside, the wind carried the cool scent of coming rain. He had survived the encounter. But the aftershocks, those didn't fade quickly. Bias wasn't always loud. It wasn't always violence. Sometimes it was a shrug, an ignored nod, a silent warning glance to someone else. He lived with it, endured it, fought it. But even Adrian Pierce had his limits. And that morning had come dangerously close. Across town, Stone sat alone in his squad car, engine off, radio muted. He replayed everything. Adrian's voice. The badge. The silence when Chun arrived. He hadn't just misjudged a man. He had derailed his own future. The Cybercrimes Task Force interview, the transfer that could have meant everything, was now gone. And it wasn't because of Adrian. It was because he couldn't see past a hoodie and an earbud. His partner, Santos, had stood up, if only too late. But he'd drawn suspicion, hovered near his holster, refused to believe what was right in front of him. Now, that memory sat heavier than any weapon. And for the first time in his career, Kevin Stone felt the weight of real accountability, not from paperwork, but from truth. At Apex's headquarters, Rachel received a secure call from Dallas HQ. The footage was reviewed, the voice on the other end said. The man with the black case was confirmed. Known associate. Active watch list. Rachel's breath caught. Did Adrian catch that? He flagged it within 4 minutes. Already updated the task force. She smiled faintly. Of course he did. The agent they nearly cuffed had not only held his composure, but cracked a real threat during the chaos. That irony wouldn't be lost on the review board. Rachel hung up and sat back. Adrian didn't need revenge. His work had already made the loudest statement, and everyone involved knew it. The following day, Adrian sat at a small outdoor cafe, hoodie on this time, earbud in again. Old habits didn't die. But trust? That took longer to return. His phone buzzed. Text from Rachel. IA opened a review. Santos submitted a report supporting your badge presentation. Chloe's being transferred. Stone. Suspended pending review. Adrian exhaled. Not in relief, but in realism. The system didn't change overnight, but pressure made it bend. He looked up at the clear sky, then toward the city skyline. 9 minutes. That's all it took to remind people what assumptions could cost, and what calm defiance could protect. As Adrian stood to leave, a stranger nodded at him. This time, Adrian nodded back. No fear, no hesitation. Because he had nothing to prove. He never did.